Hi, welcome to our presentation of the paper Software Development Analytics for Zen, Why and How. This is a presentation for the European Conference on Software Architecture 2021. My name is Gregorio Robles.
And I'm Daniel Izquierdo.
So this is a journal first paper presentation. You can see there the full reference. So this is an article which was published at the IEEE Software in 2019. If you want more details, there are some other sources that you can look for. For instance, a short paper at the Mining Software Repositories proceedings in 2016, an OSCON talk that has been recorded and is publicly online, or you can have a look at the GitHub project.
So for the motivation of this paper, we were discussing about the Zen community. Most of the activity is done through the mailing list. So the code review activity and all discussions are lively done there. And during the last years, at the point of this article, they had the feeling that they had a growth of development activity and strong delays in the code review process, as this is all done, by the way, in a mailing list. So they started to have specific complaints from contributors and maintainers. So the community started to survey all of the members and participants to understand the root causes. Some of the hypotheses that they were having is that code contributions were becoming more and more complex. They had the feeling that perhaps they faced a lack of reviewers, or they even had certain lower quality from new contributors. They had the feeling as well, as more contributors were joining, that there were more discussions taking place in the mailing list, and perhaps because there were some newcomers coming from other parts of the world, certain language barriers. So what they had is that they didn't have any clear conclusions after this, and this kind of led to certain division in the community. So they started certain policies and steps to try to fix this. First, they had specific training sessions for newcomers back in 2014. Some reviews of the architecture and design with the purpose of improving the understanding of the project itself, governance, actions, and they finally look for specific help with respect to analytics. And this is where Viterja came in, and this project specifically back in 2015.
So the first thing that we had to look at is how the code review is performed in the Zen community. So this process is done entirely through mailing lists. So for instance, here you can see the patch cycle. So here a developer sends a patch, and then those who want can submit their comments and suggestions to the patch on the mailing list as a reply to the original message. Interestingly enough, sometimes a patch is composed of more components. That's when we have a patch set. For instance, in this case that you have on the screen, you see this is the 9th version of a patch, and this patch is composed of 10 components. That's why you see there 0 out of 9 is the first one, and all the other patches are sent here as a reply to the 0 patch, and then the rest of developers can comment specifically on the patches of the patch set or on the whole patch set on the mailing list. So once we knew that, we started to do first some analytics, and our initial findings, as you see here, you know, we tried to gather some information from the community. As you can see here on the left-hand side, the evolution of the patch sets per month is almost constant for the last 10 years. There are spikes, but you don't see a growth there. On the other hand, on the right-hand side, you can see the evolution of comments per month. And here it's where you see that the perception that the community has that this is becoming more complex is true. So you see that there is an order of magnitude more of comments in the last years than in the early years, and that's where the community said, "Oh, this is difficult to go with in our community." On the other hand, the time to merge slightly increased. So if you look at the left hand side, you see in 2014, you see that the median increased. Well, it's double as the one in 2012. You see that the patches take longer. I mean, the boxes are bigger. And on the right hand side, you see that with the patch sets with 5 patches. There you see the same scenario. I mean, the box is bigger, so all the process is taking longer than before. And actually, what we saw as well is that large patches, they take longer to review. I mean, if you look at the x-axis, for the patches with one patch, with a patch set with one patch, you see the days there. It's the mean is under 10 days. In the patch sets with 5 patches, you see the mean there is 25 days, and well, the y-axis are completely different.
So this all led to certain discussion internally with Lars, the community manager of the same community. And these more steps were basically translated into specific use cases. So we defined 3 of them. We have community, we have performance, and finally the backlog. For community use case, we were focusing on identifying top reviewers, looking for imbalances that are those developers that are producing perhaps more reviews or producing more code, and then identifying post-act comments. So worth reminding here that as everything is done in the mailing list, we need to the developers need to use certain keywords as acknowledge or review it by, etc., etc. And those are the things that we were extracting for the mailing list. So there are specific actions as acknowledge. That means that a piece of code can be merged into the code. So what happens after this? So Lars realized that there were more comments. So those comments are kind of useless sometimes. So the idea with this use case is to avoid all of this. So then for performance, part of the data we've already seen is identifying delays due to large number of reviews, because we've seen that really are kind of becoming exponential instead of linear. We'll see some data later. And again, identify delays due to large patch series. Remember, everything is done in the mailing list, so that means that really huge patch series, there are even patch series of 40, 50 patches each, means 50 emails, and then there is a need for a reply to each of them, and then certain iterations. And then finally, for the backlog use case, we were discussing about having a view of the merge and not merge. So you can compare, and then you have a percentage there. Identify those that are nearly completed. So we saw before that there are a patch series of 10 patches. So then if there is 9 out of 10, so there is 1 left, hey, let's try to close this. And then identify those that are new patches, that are really old, etc., etc. So the outcomes, well, the URL that you can see here is the old dashboard. This is now working nowadays, but the next slides contains screenshots for this. The 3 first use cases are based on the community use case. Those are top reviewers, so identify who are the main reviewers, imbalances here, as we can see, to compare between those, as you can see in the bottom left table. You see the balance, the patches, and the reviews as the column. So then we can see who's doing more reviews than patches. So that means people that are reviewing, maintainers, or those that are producing new functionality. So let's say developers. So this is helping in that case. And then post-act comments. So those developers that are kind of sending emails after there is an acknowledge. So means that why are you commenting here in somehow if the patch is already ready to be merged. Remember that the main issue that we had here in the community is the noise. So we had a lot of emails going and coming back. Yeah, next one, thank you. So for this, and then this is the last slide I'll focus on for this, because the time is running out. So this one and the next one, what we see in the bottom chart is a bar chart, and then we see from basically those patches that are have several versions, or those patches that are conformed in with several patches, so around 10 in both cases, the growth is kind of linear. So that means that if we have a patch set of one patch, that takes 1x of time, let's say. If we go for 3 patches, that takes 3x. But then if we go through to 30, or we can see some examples here of 34 or 64, that growth is exponential. So that means that in 30, this is not 30x, right? So maybe this is 100x, the time that took to review one of them only. So one of the conclusions that we had here, or kind of the advice to the community, was try to break down into smaller pieces of code all of these patch series. This is another example, backlog and nearly completed, where you can speed up the process of reviewing.
So, what did we learn out of all of this? So, one of the nice things of this experience is that we had the chance to involve the community and get feedback from our actions. So, anytime we had new results, there was a lot of discussion with the community about what that means and how we should proceed. The second one is that perception is not a good friend. Sometimes we have a feeling that this is working, but then you get to the data and you see this is not working. This happened several times here in our in this research, in this paper, and it's nice always to be backed up by data and to have a discussion based on data. And as a result, we think this is a good starting point for others, researchers and open source communities, to look at their repositories, to see their process, to see how they are doing, and to enhance their process by looking at the data and by being data-driven. So thanks for your attention. If you are interested, we are here for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you.